Hello everyone watching, my name is Ollie, I'm a junior doctor living and working in the NHS in the northeast of England. And as you may or may not have seen, I am running for a position on BMA Council, the Executive Committee of the British Medical Association. If you've not already seen the video that I put up a few days ago talking about the election in more detail, I would recommend going and watching that first, but I do believe in accountability and transparency, as you all know, so I'm making this video as an opportunity to address some of the questions that you guys have sent me on Twitter, Instagram, other social media platforms, because most people haven't received their ballot sheets yet, and I do believe in representative democracy, and so I thought this might be a good chance to plead my case to you on here, and an opportunity to give you voting more of an idea of, if you vote for me, what you are voting for. So firstly, what is the BMA? That is a great question to start. The BMA, the British Medical Association, is the trade union for doctors. It's not the only medical union. There is also the HCSA, which is the Healthcare Consultants and Specialists Association. But the BMA is the largest and essentially the one that is recognised by the NHS with the most clout. Kind of long story short, if you want to achieve something for doctors in the UK via political action, the BMA is the group that you should go with. What is the specific position that you're actually running for? That's also a great question and one to start with. I'm running for a seat on the BMA National Council. BMA Council being the most senior executive committee that exists within the BMA. And while the council doesn't necessarily take action to do anything in particular by itself as the council, because it's a senior executive board, it basically exists to guide and shape the overall strategic direction of the BMA. But the executive committee that is council serves to direct the action of the other councils that exist within it, things like the Junior Doctors Committee, the Medical Ethics Committee, the Consultants Committee, all of the different groups that make it up. This raises the obvious question, well, Ollie, you're sort of talking a big game, but if the council doesn't actually take any action, what are you doing? Why are you running? That's a great question, and the answer to that is that junior doctor representatives, of which there are 5, we'll talk more about that in a minute, that are elected to council also get a seat on the Junior Doctors Committee, which is one of the committees that's involved in taking direct action on issues that affect junior doctors. Can I register to vote online? You can register, and in fact the only way to register to vote is online, so you simply, if you're not already a member of the BMA, you go and join. I'll leave all of the links in the description. The rate varies with your grade, so if you're in your first year of medical school it's free, for example, and the rates for medical students are very highly reduced. In terms of actually voting and registering your vote for the candidates you want to win, no, that has to be done via postal ballot. So if you register as a member, or you're already registered as a member, you will receive a ballot card in the post. That is the only way that you can do your vote. I know it seems kind of archaic and weird, but as far as I can understand, this is to do with the UK legal system and the laws governing how unions work. My post person is useless. What happens if they don't deliver my card? All I can suggest is that if you've not received your ballot card by the middle to end of this coming week, certainly if it gets towards the end of March and you've not received your ballot card, I would be contacting the BMA, because everybody who registers before the 28th of March, which is done online, as we've said, is eligible to vote in this election. And if you're eligible to vote, all voting members will receive a ballot card in the postal address that is registered on the BMA website, so make sure that it's up to date. And the next bunch of questions talk about kind of the same thing, which is how does the voting actually work? How does single transferable vote work, which is what this election is using, and does my choice, my order of candidates matter? So to start at the end first, yes, the order in which you preference your candidates really, really matters because of how single transferable vote works, and we'll talk about that now very quickly. The way that single transferable vote works is it's designed to eliminate vote waste, which often results in people choosing the least of 2 or 3 evils rather than the candidate they actually want. So let's think about an example. So what happens is the people behind the scenes work out the minimum number of votes that it would take for the first candidate to win, for them to accrue so many votes that the other candidates can't catch up to them and they're guaranteed a seat. You can imagine, for example, in an election where there were only 1,000 votes able to be cast, that as soon as one candidate passed 500 votes, nobody can outpace them because nobody can possibly get any more votes than that. What single transferable vote does is it identifies this minimum number of votes that somebody would need to win and then any other votes that they get before that. So let's say they needed 500 votes to win and they get 600 votes. Instead of those extra 100 votes simply being wasted, those extra votes are reallocated according to the preferences of the people that cast those votes. So let's say that you had 4 candidates running, A, B, C, D and E. Person A gets 500 votes, and then they have this extra overspill of 100 votes, and of the people that cast those votes, if it turns out that they are more interested in candidates B and C than they are D and E, then those extra spillover votes are allocated proportionally to B and C. And what this aims to do is obviously reflect the views of the voters as well as it can, instead of all of those extra 100 votes just evaporating. And it also means on the other end that let's say candidate E suddenly drops out, then the votes that were cast for them are also reallocated according to people's preferences. It stops vote waste. And this is why the ranking preference of your candidates in the order that you would like them to be prioritised is really important, because in the event that somebody gets a seat but there are 4 more seats for candidates to get, if you are interested in multiple people getting elected, which is obviously a possibility in this situation for council where you have 5 junior doctor representatives, beyond your first candidate you still get to have a say in your own way about the remaining candidates that are elected. So it is actually a good system, if a bit complicated. Which post are you actually running for on council? This is a really good question, and the answer is that council has a number of seats available for a number of different things. The biggest and most major of these things is branch of practice, that is what type of doctor you are. So whether you are a GP, a junior doctor, a consultant, an academic, whatever you are, there are a range of seats in branch of practice to ensure that council gets representatives from lots of different type of doctor. Branch of practice is the one from which candidates are elected first, and then there are other groups including ethnic minority, which has a protected number of seats, and geography. So every geographic region, such as the Northeast or the West Midlands or whatever, also gets 3 seats, and I think London gets 4. And on top of all of that, within each subgroup there are gender quotas in place, and I think, for example, for junior doctors, even though there are 5 junior doctor representatives positions, no more than 3 of them can be occupied by people of the same gender. In my case, for instance, I'm not running as a geographic representative, I'm running as a junior doctor representative, which means that I could only be placed in 5 of the 8 seats that I could possibly run for, because I'm not obviously an ethnic minority. And within those 5 junior doctor representative seats, there are only at most 3 of them that I could occupy, because 3 of them at most can be occupied by males. And coming back to what I just said, this is why preferencing candidates in the order that you would like them to be elected is really important, because this is how the election actually works. Can medical students vote? Yes, medical students can absolutely vote, and it's your help that is going to be central if I'm going to get a position on council. As long as you are a current UK medical student, so you are in university on a course in any year of your programme, and you are a BMA member, you are eligible to vote, you are a member of the profession, and you deserve to have your voice heard as much as anybody else. And not only that, but this stuff affects you guys. If you're a current final year, you're going to be qualified in August. If you are, say, a 2nd or 3rd year, you are going to be working as a doctor before this new batch of council electorates, before their term is up, so this stuff does affect you. Can British citizens studying medicine in a different country outside the UK register to vote? No, I don't believe so, because I think on the BMA website it stipulates that you must be a UK medical student in a UK university, is my understanding. So I am sorry. I'm not eligible to vote, but I still want to help your campaign. What can I do? Well, first, thank you. That's really, really kind for even making the effort. The answer is that you can actually be a really big part of this campaign to help me out, if that's what you want to do, simply by sharing my graphics on social media and with your friends, family, anybody that you know who might be in a position to vote. What I'll actually do is put a Google Drive link in the description below with some of my campaign graphics and things if you want to share them around, whether that's at your medical school, with medical friends you know. If you work with doctors, you can ask them what they think of the campaign and let them know what I stand for. Basically helping spread the word. That stuff is really, really important and will have an effect on the outcome. Do you think that more could be achieved if AHPs, that's allied health professionals, and doctors were able to work together on things like pay restoration? That's a really good question, is very complicated and probably deserves a full video if I were to try and get into that. The really difficult answer, and it's not what I wish was the case, Do I think that any industrial action or negotiations or whatever would be more effective if multiple health unions acted in tandem together? Yes, obviously they would, because the more disruptive that you can be, the better in that sort of sense. The problem is that there is a very particular and proper way that you have to go about union action that is codified in law that you can't do anything about. Getting one union by itself to do anything in a coordinated way is next to impossible, certainly extremely difficult, and trying to get multiple health unions to do that at the same time, I just can't unfortunately see it happening in any timely manner, if at all. So as much as I wish it were possible, I think practically it's probably one of the things that unions are going to have to handle by themselves. If there is opportunity for collaboration, great, I'd be all for that. But what you ultimately need is results and a pragmatic and strategic plan, and I don't know if that's possible when trying to coordinate multiple unions. Are you in favour of strike action, and if so, can you elaborate on what exactly you mean? That's a great question, and probably something that lots of people were wondering. Yes, I am in favour of strike action. I know a lot of doctors and public servants working in healthcare in general get very squeamish about the idea of striking. Once again, just with the previous question, something that we all have to remember and make lots of effort to remember, because it can be counterintuitive, is that you can't just strike. That's not a thing that you can do in the UK. It has to be coordinated. There are laws, there are lots of very complicated rules that govern what exactly constitutes a legal strike. If you strike without the proper protocols and legal protections in place, you will just be sacked, or you will face disciplinary action. That's not the way to do it. You have to try to negotiate first, because you have to show that you have tried to negotiate at a union level with the government, with the Department of Health, whoever it is, and then if that fails, strike is then something that you begin to think about. In terms of the strike action that I would be in favour of, that is a proper, full strike, including withdrawal of emergency and on-call care. I don't know how unpopular a view that is, but I'm of the view that if things come to the point where you're striking, you have to strike properly, because otherwise you're not going to have the impact that it will take for the government to capitulate to you and to take you seriously. That is unfortunately the way I think it is. What do you think about other issues, for example, physician associate pay and working conditions? I mean, those are the two that have been mentioned, and they're quite different things, and lots of people have chimed in about things like the UK FPO reserve list, bottlenecking of training posts, all the rest of it. And some of these issues are quite contentious, and I'm going to talk about them more at length in other videos. With working conditions, I absolutely agree that has to be a priority issue. The thing that I'm really worried about centrally is that if we dilute our message, unions tend to have a problem with trying to do lots of different things, which means you have to invest time, energy, resources, research, all of this into lots of different things. You tend to not achieve any of your goals very well. Given that what we're talking about here is taking a very strong arm, pro-pay restoration position with little room for negotiation, I think you have to be rock hard on one single issue. Now, pay and working conditions are obviously linked very closely together, because ultimately the issue here is that our working conditions are not very good and getting worse, and we are being underpaid very badly for the work that we do, especially at an hourly rate. I personally am of the opinion that if you increase the hourly rate to compensate for poor working conditions, then that makes poor working conditions more bearable, because you are getting paid better. I am, however, personally quite flexible on that particular issue, and obviously if I'm elected, I will be having very regular meetings with people that voted for me. I'll just make them public. We'll have big group discussions to hear what exactly people have to say, because it's a representative democracy. The point of a representative is to represent the people, not to take my own views and impose them on other people. Without wanting to get into the physician associate pay thing too much, because it's super contentious, very controversial, what this is referring to is that a new physician associate starts on a band 7 salary, which is sort of 40,000 base salary, compared to your junior doctor that starts on 28,808 a year, despite having essentially half the number of years of training and currently less responsibility. And that's obviously no disrespect or anything meant to my PA colleagues. I think you're wonderful. That's just an objective look at the numbers when we're thinking about bargaining. So I'm in the position where I've actually submitted a Freedom of Information request to NHS England, which anybody can do on anything. actually asking for the negotiations and the dealings in which it was decided that a new physician associate who has this much training and has this much responsibility and does XYZ should be paid a band 7 rate for their roles and responsibilities, because objectively, when you look at the situation, a new junior doctor has at least twice the length of training and more responsibility at the moment, because we can prescribe, because we can order ionising radiation. We are physically asked to do more, and as such our pay should reflect that. I don't think that's controversial, and I also don't believe in a crabs in a bucket mentality where we should be arguing for physician associates to be paid less. That's my view. If anybody has particular problems with that, then let me know down in the comments. Why should we elect you over anybody else? That is a fantastic question, and let me tell you for why. The whole point of this YouTube channel and me kind of existing in the way that I do on social media is about transparency, right? It was to give people an outside look who are not familiar with medicine, who want to go to medical school, or they want to know what that was like or what being a junior doctor is like. It's to keep it real with you guys, tell you in all honesty what I'm thinking and show you things as they are. And I'm quite proud actually that I've been able to do that all through medical school and since becoming a junior doctor. And let me tell you that full transparency and being vocal about the issues that affect you is not a good place to be in medicine. It's very hush hush a lot of the time, professionalism online. You shouldn't talk badly about the NHS and about this and that, but actually I pride myself on doing that for you and keeping things open. And I would argue that in voting for me you have a candidate that is very easily accessible, and you know exactly what I think about most issues, because I'll tell you, I've got nothing to hide. I'm not a careerist, certainly not when it comes to medical politics. I'm actually in the position, for example, CV wise, where being elected to BMA Council actually does nothing for my CV. It doesn't tick any extra boxes that I don't already have ticked. In terms of career and in terms of specialty and applications and all the rest of it, I don't have anything to gain by doing this. I only have time to lose. But actually, I believe in investing time in issues that I think are important. I have a vested interest in this because it affects me and my pay. It affects all of my seniors' pay, who I also think are vastly underpaid all the way up to consultant. And it affects medical students, because when you guys graduate, this stuff affects you guys as well. As I say, I make videos and talk online at length about the things that I think are important. I've stuck my neck out on that multiple times. Some of my videos have resulted in me receiving a lot of hate, abuse online, up to and including death threats, which I get sent fairly regularly. I have a platform and I'm very, very aware of that. I keep it real. I am very, very selective about the ad deals that I take, because we're talking about impressionable medical students and applicants. I do have your guys' best interests at heart here. So thank you all for watching. I hope you found it useful. I think it's really important that you know what your elected candidates think on various issues. If there's anything that I've not answered in this video, please let me know in the comments. I check them very regularly and I'll answer as quickly as I can. But the most important thing to do if you want me as one of your council representatives is put a number 1 next to my name. Once again, if you've listened to this and you think, actually, don't really like the sound of this guy very much, don't like what he has to say, don't like his face, don't like his voice, any of these things, then take a look at the doctor's vote candidates, because ultimately what matters here is that we get a pro-pay restoration council or a set of council electorates, and they have the best candidates to help you do that in their preferential ranking order. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the help. The response has been overwhelming. I am overjoyed, immensely grateful. Wasn't expecting the turnout that we've had, people saying that they're voting, so thank you all, bless you, and we'll keep going, we'll get there.